Hey, you, do me a favor, subscribe to this channel. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Midnight Madness Chats with Hardman. I've got a great guest on here tonight. Please introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and tell us a little bit about your music.
Hey, brother, thanks for having me. I'm Jesse Blaze Snider. I'm a music producer and comic book writer and, voiceover actor. I'm one of the biggest voices of my generation, at least in America, and host and really man of many parts. I'm a father of four, and I've been making music since I was a little kid and making comics since I was a little kid. But I've worked for Marvel and DC and Disney Pixar and the Muppets and worked on a lot of big stuff. But I got very frustrated by the industry as it was. Music wise, every time I got into a record label, they wanted to turn me into Bon Jovi. And I just didn't want to be a crooner. I'm a punk rock guy, freedom fighter, and my music's about empowerment, about giving people a place to put their feelings, and I think there's a lot more feelings and emotions in the world than just love songs. So I kind of went behind the scenes. I made music for television and film and things like that. I did ESPN, Monday Night Football, NASCAR, stuff like that. But I was never very good at capitalizing on my success. One of my songs went really big on Shazam, and I hadn't even released it yet. But ESPN used it really quick, and it was money, and I was like, yeah, great. And then I was like, oh shit, maybe I should have pushed that out real quick or something so people could find it. But now I've been a little bit more enterprising. I have a company called Blacklight District Studio, and we make boutique comics and music. And this latest project that I'm working on, and it started as just a little thing for myself. With the advent of AI, I'm a writer. I have, using AI to format things is wonderful. And hey, spell check and grammar check this before I send it out is fabulous. But I had a friend of mine come to me and say, "Yo, Jesse, you should use this AI." And I was like, "Nah, I'm a songwriter. I don't." And he said, "No, you could get the AI to write your background music." Because my friend happened to know that I'm sitting on literally 5,000 songs, and there's tons of things that are just important to me that are inappropriate for me to bring into a songwriting session for one of these bands, like something I wrote for my mom or for my kids, things that I've been singing to them for decades. So very quickly, I got to playing with this AI to create all these songs that I had, they're done. I've been singing them for years, and send them off to all the people that I loved. And then within a moment, I realized, oh, wait a second. With the AI here, I could do what I've always wanted to do. I can put these things in all these sound frequencies. And so I started, from the beginning of everything I would work on, I would just pick a sound frequency for it, and I would be recording things in it. And I actually went to a book. This is my current notebook. This is my notebook from 8 years ago, and I had just you can get a little dream of it, but it's full up, and I had tons of songs that I had written down because I love them so much, and I finished them and whatnot. But whatever, it wasn't appropriate, it wasn't the right time, didn't have an opportunity to record it, and I just started recording all those and all these sound frequencies. So I was listening to this stuff for a few months. And I was having a really great experience with it. I was drawn to different songs and different sound frequencies and stuff. And at a certain point in time, I said, I feel like I should share this with everybody. And so I decided to put it out. In my mind, they're these AI demos of these songs that I wrote, but they're in these healing frequencies, and they're really lovely to listen to. I'm about to do more of them because I've enjoyed doing it. But when I put it out, it seemed like people didn't really understand what it was that I had released, and the advocacy of sound frequencies, or what that really meant. So I had fans who wanted me to do something physical. And initially, I was thinking about doing some of these things that were more traditionally recorded or whatever, a box set of some things. But I just kept coming back around to this because, well, one, it's the most pure me thing ever. It's just me working with the robots to get them to do exactly what I want them to do. which doesn't always work. But usually, I get it within 95 to 99% of what I was looking for. But it's a process. It's like sculpting. It's a tool. When you use it the way that I'm using it, you got to get it to work with you. But the campaign was like one part for like fans and other part to like try to change the world and open people up to their understanding. Wouldn't it be wonderful to be getting into the elevator and the music is lowering your heart rate and chilling you out because it's in 432 hertz instead of 440? I have this great picture that I keep pulling up and showing everybody. I have it on the top of the campaign of the two frequencies side by side in like a water droplet. And when you see this, it just goes like, well, obviously, which one of these do you want shaking your body? Do you want the really mathematically configured sun on the right, or do you want this blob here on the left? This is what current tuning is, 440. This is 432. When you look at the other frequencies as well, they're just mathematically significant. Long before I was a spiritualist and open-minded, I was skeptic and closed-minded. But as a teenager, I always believed in math, and the math don't lie, in a lot of these frequency tunings, and it's just a very cool subject. So I made a petition to change standard tuning from 430 from 440 to 432. And I've just been going around, talking about the campaign and, just talking about this idea in general, because I think it's an idea we should be talking about. It's a very simple change that could be made. The score of every film could be chilling us out in 432 hertz, but instead it's all tuned to 440. Like, it's really just a lovely little change.
So you said a few interesting things there. One of the things that I would like to comment on is this little book that I think a lot of musicians have and should have, and it's all these like sort of like so I had a friend who called it his broken ideas, and he wrote it down in this book, and it's always great to look back and all these, like you said, it was like over a long period of time that you wrote this, and you kind of have been building on this idea for a long time, and seeing everything come together is actually fucking phenomenal. So tell me a little bit about the feeling you have for, like, this is like fucking months and years in the working, and now that you're finally at a point where you're like, holy shit, okay, things are starting to make sense. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about the project and the development and so forth?
Well, it's all very cool, I mean, because this notebook was filled with songs that were like in the pinnacle of some really rough times in my life. Generally speaking, I try to write in a very universal language. If you say, if you're talking about riding, you could be riding in a boat, you could be riding on a train, you could be there's a lot of ways to be riding. You could pick a vaguer word to describe something so that it could be a more universal experience. But like case in point, on this record, one of the frequencies, which is like for healing trauma, and I couldn't resist recording this song that I wrote called Rock the Cradle, which was about my experience on the reality show Rock the Cradle, in this frequency to like heal my trauma with it. Because when I went on the show, basically they decided that I was the bad guy right from the beginning, largely because what sort of ended up working out on episode number 1, they had gone after all of these talented people. And by talented, I mean in a room, in an audition, whatever, they demonstrated some great singing ability. They didn't go after a lot of experienced people. And I was amongst like 3 out of like 10 of the people in the cast who had some serious experience performing. So, I didn't lose my nerve and go flat in front of a live audience with my parents and other rock stars in the audience and whatnot. I kept my tune. We had a vocal coach brought in like immediately for everybody. But I had been told, I was like, really? Was I out of tune? And they were like, well, it was really for the others. There was a lot of people who were struggling. But this vocal coach was actually I'm so glad that happened, because she changed my life. Like I have such a better voice now because of Liz Lewis. Shout out to Liz Lewis. She helped get so much better out of me while I was on the show, and then I took lessons, vocal lessons from her. She happened to live like 10 minutes away from me or something like that when I moved to California. And so I went to go see her for a couple of years regularly. And oh man, there's so much that I can do with my voice now thanks to Liz. I had a vocal coach in New York who told me, quote, some people just don't have high voices. And I could always sing certain things really high, like in the shower or whatnot, and I didn't understand what I was doing differently. And Liz showed me it was all my posture and my approach to singing, and like it was really wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So this whole period, you know, Rock the Cradle, some made it in that song. There's another song called Gone Like I Stole Something, which is ultimately about my divorce from my wife. We were together almost 20 years since we were high school sweethearts. And you know, there's so much personal stuff in this record. There's the second track on the record, which is one of those 95 percenters, because I could not get the fucking system to read my read my bridge correctly. But it's one of the most beautiful songs I'd ever written, and it was like one of the first songs that I wrote that like I surprised myself, where I was just like, oh wow, there's really something here. And you know, that's become, especially as I became a plant medicine man and really started meditating a lot and opening myself up to inspiration in a deeper way. I mean, now, you know, I'm sitting on some of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard, and it's like a responsibility that I now have to try to convey them as best as I can, because they are wonderful, and I know that they could be wonderful for so many people. And I like okay, I have to try to give this as wonderfully to others as I can hear it in my mind. So this has been a great outlet to do that and to explore different sounds and whatnot. You know, you're limited so much with any band, because generally speaking, different people are trained in different like styles, genres. You know, you want a reggae beat. A lot of drummers don't even know how to do that. The reggae drummers know how to do that. And there are some super savvy drummers who like, you know, they like to play all different styles. But, you know, for years, I would bring all these ideas to my band that were supposed to swing. And they would just barrel. You know, like case in point, one of my most famous song, Juggernaut, which is you know, the theme song for the movie Crypt podcast, and has become like a little hit among film geeks or whatever. But it's this: you can't slow me down, I'm unstoppable. You can't cover me. It's straight ahead. Well, my original idea, which I just could not get my band to give me, was you can't slow me down, I'm unstoppable. You know, where you're swinging. You can't slow me down, I'm unstoppable. But we came out with, you can't slow me down. It's just fucking drilled at you. But that was the only thing I could get from them. And, you know, and I've had different people who are like really great and versatile, and, you know, understand 432 and like, you know, want to try to record there or whatever. You know, but then I'm in a mix with a band of two other guys who don't really know that, and like they kind of, their eyes glaze over every single time you mention it, and like you're like, all right, well me and Stevie are really excited about this. You know, so and to do what I did here on this album with all of these different things, because like this is the really like the point here of like the depth of it, is I always wanted to do this because I felt like, especially when I understood the spectrum of sort of healing frequencies, I thought, oh man, well that's one more depth, that's one more layer to the music. There's the tempo, there's the you know, like the feel of it, there's the lyrics and the resonance, and then there's the melody, and then there's also the frequency. And all these frequencies are representative of different things. You know, that's just one more layer of depth that I can add to these things creatively. So to be able to plumb the depths of my songbook and pull out all the things that were like my favorite. Like one of my favorite songs I've ever written is on this thing, and I can't wait to go out and perform it myself. And retool and get it exactly the way that I would like it because it's close. But it's called Heaven All 24/7, and it's got a load of different part changes, but it's just really musical, and I love the melody and I love the lyrics. It's about school shooting, and it's stop, something's coming, better take cover, honey, he ain't funnin'. It's really like it's just very cool and stylized, and you know getting these things out of me that were in my book and like on my heart has just been so fun. I made 60 something tunes. Nobody told me to, and I wasn't trying to do this. I just made them. And then I was kind of sitting on them for a moment and I went, maybe there is a way to actually share these with people because it's a little bit more novel than just, hey, here's some AI demos. Frequency is a big deal. And if I did this in a live setting, right? If I tried to perform this whole album, I'd need 10 guitars, 10 basses, and I'm not even sure if I would need differently tuned drums because I haven't gotten that far in doing it with a live band. Like I've done it in a room with guitar players and stuff as we've been like messing around trying to find things that we like for some song or another. But it's really like a bit of a bridge too far to actually be able to go through all 9 solfeggio healing frequencies and 432 in a whole performance. You could do a night of 528, or whatever, and that's the love frequency, and have a nice time. But ultimately, you are slightly limited being able to bounce around the frequencies. But with the AI, that was just like, boom, I can do this at great depth. I can look at every one of these songs and I'd be like, ooh, that's the perfect one for it. Because I'd pull out a song and be like, okay, what's next? I'm like, okay, there it is. And I'd look at my frequency book and I'm like, okay, 720, and I would just get it like all dialed into things that like made the most sense for me. And that process was just fun because it just gave an added layer. It's like I'm gonna write a love song and I can go, ooh, and I'm gonna put it in 528 because it's like people aren't gonna even know it, but this is the love frequency. Aha, you fucks! You're gonna fall in love while you listen to this song. It's really there's something cool about it, and I know from working with the frequencies, they are definitely some walking meditation. They are something that opens you up, makes you more present and more susceptible to energy, and that's when spooky spiritual things happen to people. So yeah, it was okay. Secretly, yeah, I'd love that to happen.
So talking about all these frequencies and obviously the rock music would probably be influenced by something like your dad, seeing your dad perform or yeah, tell me about the influence about your rock history and then also about the frequency and then combining the two. How did that happen and where did it start?
Well, the frequency conversation for me started when I was a little kid, and I just heard about these things. And of course, they say that Hitler was using 440 to control the masses. And to some degree, when you see that 440 hertz picture, you go, it's an ugly looking frequency right there. That's the one. Like why do we choose that? It seems a little bit off the beaten path. And then I also had a thing with the math. 432. You could put 9. You could put 6. You could put 3. You could also put 144. There's a whole bunch of significant numbers that you could put with 432, and 432 was a number of interest. In terms of the sun and moon relationships and a lot of other little natural things like that, and then things that showed up in sort of religious contexts. So 432 really seemed to be an interesting number, and 440 wasn't. When it came to my father, I would say first and foremost, the influence there was like, this could be my secret weapon. I'm going to record in the ancient 432 harmonic frequency, and people will be like, "Why is this music so good?" But I was really raised on, I was raised on Twisted Sister, which was more of a '70s influenced rock band. In the '80s, which was not like Twisted Sister, they were freedom fighters. Like Twisted Sister, they were freedom fighters like so many of the bands of the '70s, and a lot of the bands of the '80s were, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So not my favorite time frame, but I was very influenced by my father, and I felt like he was very underrated and underappreciated, especially as a lyricist and a melody writer. And Twisted Sister is one of a very select few bands that are played in every stadium all around the world. Not just once, but twice. They've got I Want to Rock and We're Not Going to Take It gets played in baseball stadiums and football stadiums, and it's one of those songs, that's a sporting song that people like to hear when they go to these events. And there's something going on there, and for me, growing up as a fledgling songwriter, my study was very specifically keyed into that. What are these songs that are so universal as to bring people together in these stadiums like this? I really don't believe in genre. I believe that, sort of rock is like a tool to be used in any music, and rock tends to be more like theatricality and volume and width of the thing, a thin bang bang versus a bang bang, it's theatrics really, and that's all of music is sound theatrics. And the rock theatrics are the best ones. So, in everything I do, I don't really think of it as like I'm making a rock song. I think of it as I'm making like the most universal thing that I can, especially with my eye on those songs in the stadiums, because those are the ones that, break through to everybody. And that's why they end up there. And there's not a lot of bands, that have those type of songs. It's really a small list of maybe like 200 songs that you see in constant rotation at these venues, these because they're get the audience going and make them excited, and that's it. I always felt like ballad writing was easy. Like it's really easy to just like sit there and play a little violin, and people go, "Oh, it's so pretty." Yeah, it's easy to be pretty. It's really hard to be really deep and beautiful, and like, so when I try to write something uh, pretty, it's got to be more than that, for me. But because most of the time I try to really spend my time doing what I think is the more difficult job of writing songs that deposit energy into people's souls, in one way or another, things that will uplift you on some level or will allow you to really viciously process an emotion, as opposed to, well, let's go with the and get it out of there, because really, ultimately, that's what I believe I'm doing. As all musicians are shamans, helping people move energy, and but I try to do that much more intentionally than I think a lot of other people do, because I'm aware of sort of what my role is, in the scheme of making music for people, and and that ties directly into being able to do all these things in the solfeggio scale, being able to just think a little bit deeper. Okay, this is at this frequency, and this does this. This is at this frequency. This does this, and apply all the things correctly to the music, and just give one more layer of depth to songwriting and the listening experience as a whole. Which that's the best thing, because it's like, after this I'm going to make a probably I'm about to do like a dozen or so albums, maybe a little more, of these healing frequency records, and then I'm going to pick some of my favorites and I'm going to go and like record them for real with one of my bands. But until I do that, the experience just of getting so many of these things out of me has just been lovely because I just am always like, oh man, I just can't do enough. Especially like the higher you get into like the professional rung of things, you know, my friends are really great and I want to work with them. But at the same time, they're busy. They got families to feed. I got family to feed. You know, it's hard for them to just be able to be Johnny on the spot and show up and like make all the things that Jesse wants to make just because Jesse wants to make them. Especially when, you know, we'll put something out like we just my band Dilf USA just put out a banger. It's called "We Gave an Alligator Mushrooms." It's amazing, and granted, we haven't been able to put any money into promoting it or whatever, but you know, it hasn't been able to find any legs, despite the fact that it's a great video. It's a great fucking song, and I mean, like, I challenge anybody out there: go listen to "We Gave an Alligator Mushrooms" and come back and tell us in the comments that song sucks. It doesn't. It's super fun. It's really a great one, but you know, for me, it was the ultimate show of because we've released a lot of great stuff. I've released tons of great stuff, you know. But generally, people don't know who I am unless they've like seen me on one of the bigger things that I've done. You know, it really like the whole world, the whole landscape is so locked up. It's hard to get through social media and promotion. I mean, that's why I'm really trying to get myself out there on podcasts and you know talk about these things and chat with people. But growing your own audience and your own community—that's the way. Don't try not to fucking be a part of this system, the beyond the Tate. It's just it's so controlled and like they're just gonna have you jumping through hoops and wasting your energy trying to you know cooperate with them and like they just want to make you sweat.
No, that's definitely the truth. I think I always call it the little monkey dance that you have to do for attention on the internet, especially with the new modern TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff. And unfortunately, I myself I play for a band, a little bit on the heavier side, metal and stuff. And I was saying to the guys the other day, like, listen, it's all good to write soulful music, which we call soulful. I know it's heavy stuff, but you know we put a lot of efforts into lyrics and stuff. But it's like with all the social media and stuff, you have to do the little monkey fucking dances to, you know, get heard, I guess, in a sense, which is interesting. But anyway, coming back to your music, um, you were telling me about the frequencies and things. How did you think people would respond to being, you know, different, working out of the norm with these healing frequencies and stuff? And how did people respond? Did it reach your expectations?
Well, you know, I hope that people would think it was really cool, especially when they understood more deeply what it was that I was doing. And generally speaking, that has been the response. You know, I think I had one friend who like hit me up and was like, "So what do you mean AI?" and like, and I found myself like explaining at great depth to her. Like, I'm like, "Oh, well, you know, I'm using it as a tool. It's like, you know, it's not exactly easy to do this." In other ways, and I had just made this for myself as an exercise, like and something, you know, so I could listen to. When you go to listen to music like this, it's always like, you know, like chanting and weird. It's not like music that you might like to listen to in the car. So I was like making myself some things that I might like to listen to in the car, songs about my kids and whatever else, but like things that I would want to hear, and that was really, you know, I knew I was offering something cool on that front. I did have some minor not concerns, I don't know, some minor thoughts about that maybe some people would react to the AI thing as my one friend did. Because there's a lot of real, like, major pushback on the AI. But I feel like, you know, we got everything in balance. You know, it's a fabulous tool that can be used. And you know, I've used it in other areas of my life, just you know, as a formatting thing, and like there's a lot of wonderful things. You know, I do three podcasts a week, and you know, often I'll have a whole bunch of things that I want to talk about, and you know, but like I'm rushing to try to get my show done, and then you go, "Hey, ChatGPT," and like I fucking vomit into the ChatGPT, like you know. 3 paragraphs of like what my show's about and like what I want to be about. I'm like, could you just put that into like a bullet point something for me, you know, like could you write a description of the show that I can share later, you know, on the thing, so I don't have to like be whatever, and I can get it out of the house because I got to get that, you know, because it's like, you know, we get when your podcast's doing okay, you get paid a little bit, but really not like it's not gangbusters or anything. So it's one of these things that you tend to be kind of fitting into your life and you know and getting it whatever. So I mean, the advantage of using these things where a lot of busy work is taken out of the equation is amazing. And to be able to demo these things, I think is perfectly appropriate and reasonable. Because I'm doing them in the sound healing frequencies, I'm actually like, commoditizing them. And it's weird because like I don't even consider like so much of the music like being commoditized anymore unless I'm getting it placed places and I'm getting like music. Um, I'm doing these in really limited packaging and like I'm making it a collector's thing for, like for the people who had asked me to do something physical. But like for me, it's like I want people to think of healing frequency, sound healing. This is worth money. This is important. This is good. This is positive. There's something valuable here. So, that was kind of the point of it, but like, because our price point for the record is $33, but you get a 17 track greatest hits of mine with it for free. And you get a cover record for free. It's got me covering some of my dad's songs and Ace of Spades and a couple cool mashups and stuff. There's some really good things on it. And so you get 3 records for that price, and it's a limited edition thing for the first 1,000 people, or the first 1,000 orders get the limited edition version of the record, and the first 1,000 customers get the 2 free gifts. So I tried to make it like what do you call it, rich in value for what you're getting, even though at the same time I wanted to be like, hey, $33 for this sound thing. This is sound healing. This is important, and not come at it in like any sort of like timid sort of way, because this is the next level, and this should be something challenging other music. I hope to build it up over time and have this be something that people get into and are enjoying and able to say, yeah, I really think that I get more out of this sound healing frequency music that I listen to when I listen to Jesse's music than, that I'm getting out of a lot of the mainstream thing. I wish that they would retune the Beatles and put it out in 432. That would be so great. So that's like long-term goal for this whole, this whole thing.
I think it's a good concept, and what I noticed with especially more modern bands and things, there's a lot more music out in modern times that's kind of aiming towards self healing, and maybe debuking the negativity. Because I mean, like you mentioned earlier, the earlier bands were sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and me being a metalhead and playing in metal bands and stuff, that got worse because that's all fucking Satan and fucking, let's be as shocking as we could be. Where in the modern era of music, I noticed there's a lot more, like you said, healing frequencies. You're promoting this, and it's basically helping people get better and stuff. And I recently had an interview with a girl that does. It's called Metal Health. So she also uses frequencies, basically to help people with mental health, and I think it's fucking brilliant. I think it's good that musicians start giving a shit. So yeah, if there's anything else you would like to add, please let us know where people can listen to the album, where can they buy the album, where can they buy merch, when are you touring, and all that.
Well, yeah, let me just say, when a lot of metal bands tune to D, and that is considered a little bit of trying to get a little bit closer, lower in frequency to the 432. It doesn't exactly, add up that way when you, do the math or whatever, but there's something to trying to get that, or the richer sound that they hear in the 432 hertz. Additionally, yeah, absolutely, it's a big deal. It's a good thing. Music is a conduit for emotion. Screaming into a pillow is wonderful. Going into a mosh pit's even better. Really, you can get out, you can move your emotions. And that's the thing, that's why writers out there, you got to write to the pinnacle of the thing. Everything in our reality is a polarity. And, and there's sort of severe and more severe and more severe. And as far to the most severe as you can get is always where you want to go, because that's what scratches that itch completely for people. And heavy metal is an example of that, the zenith of scratching that itch when you have stored up, pent up anger, pent up emotion, and you're able to go into a arena and blow off some steam with a whole bunch of other people are blowing off steam. We don't know it, but that's what we're doing. That's why music is so soul healing, because it allows us to, go on these rides emotionally. And, and some songs are meant to be sort of like left behind. You listen to them and they make you sad, but they also let you process the fact that you're sad. And, at a certain point in time, you move on past that song, past that sadness. And other songs are always going to be there for you to lift you up. They've encapsulated some greatness, really some energy that who doesn't want to have that? And, we're not going to take it. And I Want to Rock, those are two of those songs, like I Want to Rock too. I will neither take it. That's anything that has that thing that gets the fire under your butt. Really will do the trick. So I believe in the power of music so strongly, and rock and roll, I believe, is absolutely, just like horror music, is the method of choice for, I would tell you, older souls who have trauma from other lives. There's been a lot of war on planet Earth. There's been a lot of torture. There's been crusades. And then if you listen to some people, there's been interstellar war, and all these souls are here with all this trauma. And music, rock music, horror movies, that helps them to process the traumas that they've gone through, the things that they've seen. And it is absolutely an important tool. It is absolutely useful and beneficial. It's been shown to lower people's blood pressure, rock music. And there's a lot more 440 tuning in heavy metal than there is in other places. And I don't think that's a coincidence either, because it is more in that direction. But anyway, to wrap everything up on my end, yeah, the campaign's going on right now. We've got 13 days left. Please, get it in, back it, and if you know anybody personally, because the freaking algorithms are so locked up. If you think, oh, my friend Sean, he would love this. Please send it to Sean directly. Send him a link. Be like, yo, check this out. I think you'd really like what Jesse's talking about. Because I'm building a community, and I want you. I want the like-minded people. I want the people who get it. There's a lot of people walking around without any inner monologue, and those aren't the people I'm looking for. I'm looking for the people with the inner monologues and thinking and going, oh, that would be nice. Maybe the world would be a little bit better if we made this change here or this change there. And know that by supporting the campaign that I'm doing, you're supporting a chain of campaigns. The next is the next comic book project for my company. It's called Sugar and Bones Magazine. It's our answer to Heavy Metal Magazine. It's got three of my best friends, Digger Mesh, who's owned Art Asylum, is a brilliant sculptor, brilliant filmmaker. He's got a zombie animals thing in there. My best buddy, Aaron Sparrow, who's one of my editors at doing Disney books and Muppet books. And he's a brilliant writer, and he's got a parody thing in there that's great. And then me and my best buddy, Steve Kurth, who've been working at Marvel together for, he and I have been working together for a decade, but we've worked at Marvel 20 years ago now, and have been friends ever since. We've got three things that we've been trying to get out here. And then the magazine has other stuff besides that, photo stuff and whatnot. And then after that, we're doing these hemp goblins to promote the advocacy of hemp plastic. And the hemp goblins are out to sabotage the oil industry and get hemp into into people's hands, biodegradable plastics. And we're really excited about that too. So, everything that my company and me and my friends are doing is really change the world kind of stuff. And I'm not afraid to say I'm a wonderful musician, and I know it's hard sometimes to go, oh, am I going to go listen to this? But nice to hear them talk. But I've been doing this my whole life. I'm 43 years old, and I've got 4 kids, and I've stuck with it because I love it so much, and because so much comes through me. I feel like I have a responsibility to share these things, and this album is filled with a lot of those things that I had felt I had a responsibility to share. And it's out there. If you want to listen to it before you go and pledge to the campaign, you can find it. Solfeggio Transmissions. It's Spotify, iTunes. It's everywhere. You can listen to it. But please back the campaign so that we can raise awareness for this thing. Sign the petition that's on the campaign page. Do all the things. Be a part of it, and let's change the world for the better. And hopefully, next time you see me, I will have found a way to be playing in 432 frequency, and maybe even doing a couple songs in some alternative frequencies. I plan to do it. It's just just things cost money, and honestly, I've made my money as a voiceover actor. I've made my money as a host. I've made my money as a comic book writer. Music is it's like you're constantly just laying out money to do so many things. Part of the reason why this was so cool to be able to do, because it didn't cost me anything really to do it, but my time and my energy, and and I had a passion for doing it. So hopefully you guys have a passion for what I said, and you go check it out. And otherwise, I'm not really on social media. I'm on Facebook, but my professional page, I never post on it really. you got to go to my personal page. You can find me there. But you can email me at jesseblaze@jessesnider.com. Listen to my podcast, Coolest Geek Alive, which is becoming Coolest Alive pretty soon, and everything they don't want you to know on Mondays, my Esoteric Wisdom show. But yeah, otherwise, I'm cool. You can reach out to me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. All the links to all the podcast and all the music and everything will be in the subscription. Do check it out. Let us know in the comments what you think about it. I am really excited about this album. I'm really excited about all the projects you're busy with. I'm really excited about the healing part of this. I think it's something that more people should do. I love what you said about the hemp products, replacing plastic. Let's not fuck up the only planet that we have right now.
Yeah, man, they're finding plastic in our sperm. That was like a last straw for me. When I'd heard about the hemp years ago, that you could use it for paper, you could use it for plastic, and that we weren't doing it because it was like lumped into American laws. Well, in France, they do it apparently. Um, you know, there should just be a total changeover. And I'm actually linked up with some people of proprietary science in basically the different ways to prepare the hemp so that it can be used in various capacities in terms of like how long it would take to biodegrade. So stuff that'll last forever and stuff that will biodegrade. So we're going to do beach toys eventually and like a ton of different stuff with it. It's a cool thing. You'll be happy. I've been wanting to do it forever, and right now it's like all of this is like this campaign will help me get the covers that I need so I can launch the magazine, which is mostly done, and then the magazine will help me get the money that I need to get the hemp goblins going. Like so, like just all sort of steamrolls. But this is what you have to do when you're an independent artist doing the thing.
Until next time, I've been Hardman. So you said a few interesting things there. One of the things that I would like to comment on is this little book that I think a lot of musicians have and should have, and it's all these like sort of like so I had a friend who called it his broken ideas, and he wrote it down in this book, and it's always great to look back and all these, like you said, it was like over a long period of time that you wrote this, and you kind of have been building on this idea for a long time, and seeing everything come together is actually fucking, phenomenal. So tell me a little bit about the feeling you have for, like, this is like fucking months and years in the working, and now that you're finally at a point where you're like, holy shit, okay, things are starting to make sense. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about the project and the development and so forth? So talking about all these frequencies, and obviously the rock music would probably be influenced by something like your dad, seeing your dad perform, or yeah, tell me about the influence about your rock history, and then also about the frequency, and then combining the two. How did that happen, and where did it start? No, that's definitely the truth. I think I always call it the little monkey dance that you have to do for attention on the internet, especially with the new modern TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff. And unfortunately, I play for a band, a little bit on the heavier side, metal and stuff. And I was saying to the guys the other day, like, listen, it's all good to write soulful music, which we call soulful. I know it's heavy stuff, but we put a lot of efforts into lyrics and stuff. But it's like with all the social media and stuff, you have to do the little monkey fucking dances to, you know, get heard, I guess, in a sense, which is interesting. But anyway, coming back to your music, um, you were telling me about the frequencies and things. How did you think people would respond to being, different, working out of the norm with these healing frequencies and stuff? And how did people respond? Did it reach your expectations? That's great. So we I see we're running a little bit out of time. Um, but yeah, I think it's a good concept, and what I've also I noticed with especially more modern bands and things, there's a lot more music out in modern times that's kind of aiming towards self healing, and maybe debuking the negativity. Because I mean, like you mentioned earlier, the earlier bands were sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and me being a metalhead and playing in metal bands and stuff, that got worse because that's all fucking Satan and fucking, let's be as shocking as we could be. Where in the modern era of music, I noticed there's a lot more, like you said, healing frequencies. You're promoting this, and it's basically helping people get better and stuff. And I recently had an interview with a girl that does. It's called Metal Health. So she also uses frequencies, basically to help people with mental health, and I think it's fucking brilliant. I think it's good that musicians start giving a shit. So yeah, if there's anything else you would like to add, please let us know where people can listen to the album, where can they buy the album, where can they buy merch, when are you touring, and all that. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. All the links to all the podcast and all the music and everything will be in the subscription. Do check it out. Let us know in the comments what you think about it. I am really excited about this album. I'm really excited about all the projects you're busy with. I'm really excited about the healing part of this. I think it's something that more people should do. I love that what you said about the hemp products, replacing plastic. Let's not fuck up the only planet that we have right now. Um, Definitely. Until next time, I've been Hardman. Cool. Thank you so much for your time. Just want to stop